They had all given up doctors, specialists, even the billionaire with his machines and ego. But just as the last light of hope began to fade, a barefoot black boy walked into the hospital and whispered 5 words that would change everything. "I can wake her up." 9-year-old Lily Anderson had been in a coma for over a week. 1 minute, she was laughing at breakfast. The next, she collapsed before school. Her father, Matthew Anderson, a blue-collar builder with strong hands and a breaking heart, never left her side. He had sat through every failed procedure, every heartless prognosis. And then came Gregory Steele, the smug tech mogul who promised miracles with AI and brain scans, but delivered nothing. Late one night, a nurse knocked quietly. "There's a boy here. Says he wants to help." That's how Elijah appeared. Barefoot, hoodie too big, eyes like galaxies. He didn't ask for permission. He asked for truth. Elijah told Matthew that Lily wasn't gone, just lost, and afraid to return. "She needs to hear your pain," he said. And when Matthew finally spoke the words he had buried in guilt, when he wept, confessed, and promised, Lily's heart monitor flickered. Then it jumped, and just like that, faith returned. Not with science, but with song, memory, and a barefoot boy named Elijah who vanished as suddenly as he came, leaving behind not just healing, but a miracle. No one noticed the boy at first. While machines blinked and billionaires barked orders, he stood silently in the hospital lobby, barefoot, hoodie too big, eyes steady. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't a doctor or a specialist. But when he whispered, "I can wake her up," everything changed. 9-year-old Lily Anderson had been in a coma for 8 days. The diagnosis was vague. An acute neurological collapse. 1 minute she was tying her shoes before school. The next she collapsed into her father's arms. No one knew why. Her father, Matthew Anderson, a construction worker with rough hands and a tender heart, never left her side. He read her favorite stories, played lullabies, even prayed through the sterile silence. But the hospital halls grew colder with each passing day. Doctors stopped, speaking in full sentences. Nurses avoided eye contact. The only thing louder than the machines was the quiet despair. Then came billionaire Gregory Steele, flanked by cameras and confidence. He promised miracles, AI diagnostics, VR treatments, global experts, all free of charge. "We'll upgrade her brain like an iPhone," he joked. Matthew didn't laugh. "She's not a device," he whispered. But desperation silenced dignity, and Gregory's team took over. Nothing worked. The more money Gregory threw at the problem, the emptier the room felt. Specialists came and went. Machines flashed, simulations ran. But Lily remained still, eyes closed, body limp, slipping further away, until the boy came. A nurse found him sitting alone in the lobby after midnight. No ID, no shoes, just a calm certainty. "Are you her father?" he asked. "She's not gone," he added. "She just doesn't know. It's safe to come back." Matthew, exhausted and broken, wanted to dismiss him. But something in the boy's voice, strange familiarity, like hearing your name in a dream, stopped him. "What do you mean?" Matthew asked. The boy replied, "She needs something you haven't given her yet. Your truth, your pain." Inside the room, the boy placed his hand gently on Lily's head, then turned to Matthew. "She's waiting," he said, "but she needs to know why you're still here." Matthew broke. For the first time, he told his unconscious daughter the truth. "I wasn't there that morning," he whispered, voice trembling. "I missed breakfast. I missed your smile. I missed the signs." His tears fell freely as he clutched her tiny hand. "I should have been home. I should have told you how proud I was. Please come back. I'll never miss another second." The monitor beeped, once, then again. Her heart rate had shifted. The boy smiled. "She's listening." The next day, the boy returned. He said only one thing. Sing the song. Matthew's throat tightened. It was a lullaby he hadn't sung since his wife's funeral. A melody his grandmother once sang. One Lily used to beg for before bedtime. There's light in the shadows and stars in the rain. As the notes filled the room, Lily's fingers twitched. 2 days later, she opened her eyes and whispered, "Daddy." No doctor could explain it. No machine could replicate it. Gregory's team packed up quietly. His billion-dollar treatments had failed. But something else, something ancient and sacred, had succeeded. Before he left for good, the boy gave Matthew a note. Sometimes healing comes before the waking. Don't give up just because her eyes are closed. The boy Elijah was never recorded on camera. No staff remembered admitting him. He had come like wind through a cracked window, unexpected and undeniable. Matthew never found him again, but he remembered the boy's words and the miracle he brought. 3 months later, Lily was walking, laughing, painting again. Matthew sold his car, his vacation, home, everything, to Open Voices at Dawn, a free music and art center for children facing trauma. Its motto was simple: where silence ends, healing begins. On the front wall, Lily painted the first mural, a barefoot boy in a too-big coat, offering a toothed hand from the shadows. Underneath, in big blue letters, were 5 words. He didn't have wings, just faith. The first time Matthew Anderson saw the boy, he thought he was a dream. After all, how else could you explain a barefoot child appearing in the middle of the night, whispering words that no one else dared to say? I can wake her up. No fanfare. No technology. Just certainty. For 8 days, Matthew had watched his daughter Lily lie silent beneath tubes and machines. The doctors called it a neurological anomaly. The billionaire, Gregory Steele, called it an opportunity, a chance to showcase the best of modern science. But no scans, no simulations, no high-tech headsets made a difference. Lily didn't move. She didn't speak. She just faded. And Matthew, a man who once built bridges and carried steel on his back, now found himself crushed by something he couldn't lift: helplessness. Then the boy came. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't famous. He had no badge, no shoes, no explanation. Just eyes that looked older than any child should. "She's not gone," the boy said. "She's just afraid." "Afraid of what?" Matthew asked. The boy looked up. "Of being forgotten. Of coming back to a world where no one sings to her anymore." Matthew didn't understand until he did. Years ago, after losing his wife in a fire, he had stopped singing, stopped telling bedtime stories, stopped believing in anything he couldn't hold in his hands. He told himself he was protecting Lily by working harder, providing more. But the truth was, he had hidden his grief behind silence, and Lily had noticed. She had grown quieter too, but never complained. She just curled into cleaned herself. Now, in that quiet hospital room, the boy asked Matthew to do the one thing no one else had: speak from his heart. Matthew confessed everything: his guilt, his absence, his fear. And when the boy said, "She needs your song," something shifted. It wasn't a song from the radio. It wasn't something recorded. It was an old lullaby, passed down from Matthew's grandmother, one he hadn't sung since the day they buried his wife. "There's light in the shadows, and stars in the rain." His voice cracked, his hands trembled, but Lily's heart monitor responded. The next morning, Lily's hand moved. Then her eyelids fluttered. And finally, miraculously, she whispered, "Daddy?" No one could explain it. The doctors said it was spontaneous neural reintegration. The nurses called it a miracle. But Matthew knew the truth. It was the boy. He had appeared like hope itself, unexpected, quiet, and full of light. But just as suddenly as he arrived, he vanished. No security footage, no record, no footprints. only a folded note left on the window. Sometimes the healing comes before the waking. Keep singing. Matthew did just that. Every night, he sang to Lily. Every morning, she got stronger. And together, they began, again, not as survivors, but as believers. 3 months later, Matthew used his savings to open Voices at Dawn, a free center for kids facing grief, illness, or silence. On its front wall was a mural, a barefoot boy with outstretched hands. And beneath it, in Lily's handwriting, he didn't have wings, just faith. When reporters asked if the boy was real, Matthew always smiled and said, he was real, when it mattered most. Some called it a legend, others called it divine, but those who needed hope, they just called it truth. Because sometimes, the smallest voice can bring someone home. And sometimes faith wears a hoodie and walks in barefoot. The machines didn't blink. The specialists had flown out. The billionaire's promises had faded, like smoke. For 8 days, Lily Anderson had been silent, locked in a coma that no medication, no machine, no $1 million intervention could touch. And then came the boy, barefoot, quiet, unknown. He walked into the hospital just past midnight, wearing an oversized hoodie and jeans frayed at the knees. No one knew his name. No security guard stopped him. No camera recorded him. But when he looked at Matthew Anderson, Lily's grieving father, and calmly said, I can wake her up, something deep in Matthew's chest stirred. Everyone else had failed. Gregory Steele, the billionaire tech mogul, had flown in equipment from around the world. AI, diagnostics, virtual simulations, experimental procedures. All of it had been applied. Gregory saw Lily as a challenge to be solved, not a child to be saved. We'll upgrade her brain like an iPhone, he had laughed. But nothing worked. Until that night. Until the boy asked Matthew to speak. To finally say what he'd buried, behind silence and strength. And Matthew did. With trembling lips and a father's cracked voice, he whispered his guilt. I wasn't there, baby, he said, sobbing. I missed breakfast. I missed your smile. I should have seen the signs. Then something happened. The monitor flickered. The next night, the boy returned and asked Matthew to sing. The old lullaby he hadn't sung since his wife's funeral. The one Lily used to fall asleep to. His voice was unsteady, but the melody, there's light in the shadows and stars in the rain, carried something. No technology could mimic love. Lily's fingers twitched. By morning, she opened her eyes. The doctors couldn't explain it. The records made no sense. No one could find the boy. He wasn't on any camera. The hospital had no visitor log with his name. But Matthew knew. He wasn't a dream. He was real, because Lily remembered him too. He held my hand, she whispered. He said, your daddy's waiting on the other side of the dark. His name? Isaiah. Matthew never saw him again. At least, not clearly. Once, months later, he thought he saw a boy with bare feet and dust on his cheeks sitting quietly at the back of a community concert, smiling. Then he was gone. But the message remained. Isaiah didn't come with machines or science. He came with something older, something sacred. He reminded a father of his voice, a daughter of her strength, and the world that some miracles aren't meant to be measured, they're meant to be believed. Matthew used his savings to build something new. Voices at Dawn, a free art and music center for kids in trauma. The first mural was painted by Lily, a boy with no shoes reaching out from the dark. Below it, in bright blue letters. He didn't have wings, just faith. And from that moment on, Matthew never stopped singing. Not because it cured her, but because it brought her home. No one noticed the change at first. The machines still blinked in steady rhythm. The monitors still hummed, and the hospital halls still echoed with quiet routine. But in room 317, something had shifted. Something no machine could measure. It began the moment a boy named Isaiah walked in. He wasn't on any visitor log. No security camera recorded his arrival. He wore no shoes, just an oversized hoodie and a calmness that didn't match his age. But when he stepped into Lily Anderson's room and laid his hand gently on her head, the air felt different, like something sacred had arrived. For over a week, Lily had been in a coma. Billionaire Gregory Steele had tried everything: cutting-edge treatments, international experts, even AI-powered diagnostics. But no matter how much money he spent, Lily remained still, silent, slipping. Then Isaiah appeared, not with science, but with something deeper: presence. He didn't promise miracles. He simply asked for honesty. "She needs to hear your pain," he told Lily's father, Matthew. So Matthew spoke, not like a father pretending to be strong, but like a man finally letting himself break. He confessed his guilt, his absence, his fear, and Lily responded. The monitor's rhythm changed. Her fingers twitched. The silence cracked open. But Isaiah wasn't done. He returned the next night and asked Matthew to do something he hadn't done in years: sing a lullaby from long ago, a song only Lily and her late mother had ever heard. Matthew's voice shook, but he sang, and Lily's heart responded, stronger this time. That was the moment Matthew understood. Isaiah hadn't come to fix Lily. He had come to lead her home, with story, with song, and with faith. When Lily finally opened her eyes and whispered, "Daddy," it wasn't a medical event. It was a miracle. A reminder that sometimes healing isn't about machines. It's about memory. It's about love rediscovered. After that, Isaiah vanished. No one could find him. But Lily remembered him clearly. "He said he was the echo that found me when I couldn't see," she told Matthew. "He held my hand in the dark." Isaiah didn't come with answers. He came with presence, and that was enough. 3 months later, Lily was walking again, smiling, painting, singing the song Isaiah had taught her. And Matthew, he sold his car, his lake house. He emptied his savings, not to chase wealth, but to build something that mattered. He called it Voices at Dawn, a free creative center for children battling illness, grief, or trauma. Its first mural showed a barefoot boy reaching from the darkness. Beneath it were the words, "He didn't have wings, just faith." Today, that message travels far beyond hospital walls, through songs, through stories, through a YouTube channel called Isaiah's Echo, where Lily shares her drawings and Matthew shares his voice. And in every message they receive from hospital beds, shelters, orphanages, one sentence always returns: "I thought I was lost, but maybe I'm just not finished yet." And that's exactly what Isaiah would have said. 3 months had passed since the impossible became real. Since Lily Anderson, a 9-year-old girl trapped in an unexplained coma, opened her eyes and whispered, "Daddy." Since her father, Matthew Anderson, had rediscovered not just his voice, but his purpose. But before the healing, before the joy, there was only silence and a boy named Isaiah. Doctors had called it a spontaneous neural recovery. Scientists shrugged and used words like idiopathic and anomaly. But Matthew knew better, because he had seen what the cameras hadn't, felt what machines couldn't measure. And most of all, he had believed. Isaiah had come barefoot, unnoticed, unrecorded. He hadn't brought medicine or wires. He brought stories, questions, and a kind of peace that only those who've walked through darkness seem to carry. "She's listening," he said, "but she needs your truth. And later, she needs your song." That song, an old lullaby Matthew hadn't sung since losing his wife, became the bridge between worlds. The melody wasn't perfect. His voice cracked. But as he sang it night after night, something began to shift. Lily stirred. Her heart rate rose. Her color returned. And when she finally spoke, she told him. He held my hand in the dark. He said, "Your daddy's waiting, on the other side." No one could explain how she knew things Matthew hadn't spoken aloud. Details from the song, lines from stories, moments long buried in grief. But she remembered, because Isaiah had whispered them back into her. And then he was gone. No name in the system, no trace in the footage, just a note on the window. Sometimes healing comes before the waking. Don't give up. Matthew never did. He transformed his pain into purpose, sold his assets, closed old accounts, and with Lily by his side, he opened Voices at Dawn, a free center for children dealing with grief, trauma, or illness. It wasn't flashy, but it was honest. The first mural on the wall was Lily's, a boy in an Akamas, oversized hoodie reaching into the dark, offering a song. Below it, in bold letters, he didn't have wings, just faith. But the story didn't end there. Matthew and Lily launched a YouTube channel, Isaiah's Echo. They shared their journey, their songs, their stories. Within weeks, the world responded. Thousands of messages poured in from hospital beds, lonely apartments, shelters, and prisons. People who had felt lost wrote back with a new hope. Maybe I'm not finished yet. That phrase, those 6 words, became a quiet anthem for the broken. And one evening, while walking through their old neighborhood, Lily stopped in front of a man playing harmonica beneath a broken street lamp. His cardboard sign read, "You're not lost. You're just not finished yet." "Daddy," Lily whispered. "That's what Isaiah said." Matthew approached the man gently. "Where did you hear that phrase?" The man smiled. "From a boy. Years ago. Said he traveled light. Said he carried truth." "Was his name Isaiah?" Lily asked. The man's eyes twinkled. "I think it was." That night, Lily stood by her bedroom window and looked up at the stars. "What if Isaiah finds another girl who's scared like I was?" she asked. Matthew hugged her. "Then I hope someone nearby is singing." Lily nodded. "We should teach the world to sing." And they did. One story, one voice, one song at a time. The sun had barely risen when Lily Anderson stood barefoot on a small stage, her hands clutching a microphone, her voice trembling, but only for a moment. Then she began to sing. The same lullaby her father once sang to her every night in the ICU. The same song that had guided her back from the edge of darkness. The one Isaiah had reminded her of, word by word. When the world had gone silent, 300 people sat in the audience at Voices at Dawn. The center her father, Matthew, had built from the ground up brick by brick, note by note. He had sold everything he owned to make this dream real, not because he had to, but because he'd finally remembered what truly mattered. Presence, connection, and the kind of healing that can't be prescribed. As Lily's song reached its final note, Matthew noticed something. Or rather, someone. At the very back of the room. A boy, barefoot, dusty coat, calm eyes. Just watching. And then, gone. No applause, no noise, just faith. Isaiah had returned, if only for a second. But this story didn't begin on that stage. It began in a hospital room where science had failed, and silence reigned. Lily had been in a coma. Doctors gave up. Machines kept her body alive, but her spirit was slipping. Gregory Steele, the billionaire with his AI and arrogance, had tried everything. But it wasn't medicine that reached Lily. It was a boy with no shoes, no credentials, and a soul that felt older than the sky. Isaiah didn't heal her with his hands. He healed her with words, with stillness, with an understanding of pain no child should have. He told Matthew, "She's listening, but she doesn't know it's safe to come back." And in the rawest moment of Matthew's life, he finally spoke the truth. That he'd been absent, that he'd buried his grief, that he'd forgotten how to sing. When he let go of the weight of guilt and let his voice rise in broken lullaby, Lily began to return. No one believed it at first. The hospital had no footage of Isaiah, no record, no sign-in. Nurses thought Matthew had dreamed him. But when Lily woke up and described Isaiah exactly, his voice, his scent, his words, they knew this was no dream. After her recovery, Lily and Matthew didn't go back to life as usual. They couldn't. Too much had changed. Instead, they created Isaiah's Echo, a YouTube channel where they told their story through songs, drawings, bedtime stories, and soft truths. It went viral not because of algorithms, but because it touched something deep in people, the part that had once felt invisible. Within weeks, they received thousands of messages from people in prison, from kids in shelters, from teenagers in hospital beds. All of them said the same thing. I thought I was lost, but maybe I'm just not finished yet. Matthew kept every message in a notebook. Lily painted them on the walls of voices at dawn. One wall showed a child in darkness reaching for a hand. Another had a quote Isaiah had once whispered, "Healing doesn't always make sense, but it always leaves light," and that light spread. One evening, walking home from the center, Lily asked her father, "What if there are more kids like me out there scared and alone?" Matthew didn't hesitate. "Then we teach the world to sing." Lily nodded solemnly. "Not just us, Daddy. Everyone." And so they did. Their lullabies were translated into 5 languages. Their stories became animated shorts. Schools across the country began using Isaiah's Echo in grief counseling. Children began writing their own lullabies, telling their own stories. But at the heart of it all, there was always the boy. No wings, no spotlight, just bare feet and faith. And to this day, whenever someone in the world feels like giving up, a soft voice seems to rise, sometimes through speakers, sometimes inside the heart, whispering gently, "You're not lost. You're just not finished yet." It began with a whisper that became a song that became a movement, and a movement that reminded the world. Sometimes, the smallest voice carries the loudest hope. Lily Anderson had once been silent, locked in a coma with no known cause, her future slipping further with every passing hour. Machines kept her body alive, but her soul seemed unreachable. Doctors spoke in cold probabilities. A billionaire offered high-tech miracles that led nowhere. Her father, Matthew Anderson, stayed beside her bed, praying into the silence, until a barefoot boy named Isaiah appeared and quietly said, "I can wake her up." What followed wasn't science. It wasn't logic. It was love. It was presence. Isaiah asked Matthew to sing, to confess, to return to the lullabies and stories that once made Lily feel safe. And when Matthew found the courage to sing again, Lily responded, first with a twitch, then a whisper, and finally, with open eyes. She came back, not because of wires or data, but because someone reminded her she was still loved, that she wasn't forgotten. Isaiah vanished after that. No trace, no video, no name in the visitor log. But Lily remembered him, and so did Matthew. They could have stopped there, grateful, quietly moving on. But they didn't. Instead, they built something. Together, father and daughter launched a YouTube channel called Isaiah's Echo. A simple idea. Share the stories, the songs, the bedtime truths that had pulled them through the dark. Lily drew pictures. Matthew read old stories from his worn-out notebook. He sang lullabies. Not polished, not perfect, but real. Within 2 weeks, the channel had over 2 million views. Within 2 months, they'd received more than 10,000 messages. From hospital rooms, from prison cells, from runaway teens and grieving parents, from people battling loneliness, trauma, or fear. And almost every message ended the same way. "I thought I was lost, but now I think maybe I'm just not finished yet." Matthew read every message aloud to Lily. Sometimes they cried. Sometimes they wrote back. But always, they kept singing. Eventually, they turned those voices into something even bigger. Voices at Dawn, a free creative healing center for children and teens navigating illness, grief, or trauma. Music, painting, poetry, quiet storytelling, all encouraged, all welcomed. The first mural on the wall was painted by Lily. It showed a child in a dusty coat, barefoot, reaching into darkness with one hand extended. Beneath it, in bold blue paint, it read, "He didn't have wings, just faith." That quote became the heartbeat of the movement. It wasn't about religion or science. It was about something simpler, something deeper. That faith can be quiet, that healing doesn't always look like a cure, and that a story, told honestly, can reach someone who's nearly gone and bring them home. So now, every night before bed, Lily asks, "Can we sing just one more?" And Matthew always says yes, because somewhere out there another little girl might be listening. And somewhere, Isaiah still walks barefoot through the silence, reminding the world that healing often begins with a whisper and becomes an echo that never truly fades. They called it a medical impossibility. But Matthew Anderson knew it was something more. When his 9-year-old daughter Lily slipped into a coma, doctors gave up. Even a billionaire, high-tech miracles failed to make her stir. But then, a barefoot boy named Isaiah walked into the hospital without a badge, without fear, and whispered, "I can wake her up." What followed wasn't science, it was soul. Isaiah didn't use wires or machines. He asked Matthew to speak the truth he'd buried deep. The guilt, the love, the pain. Then he asked him to sing the lullaby Matthew hadn't sung since his wife passed. And as his trembling voice filled the sterile room, Lily's fingers moved. Her heart rate changed, and days later she whispered, "Daddy." Isaiah vanished as quietly as he came. No records, no footprints. But Lily remembered him, and so did Matthew. Now, through their YouTube channel, Isaiah's Echo, they share their story through songs, drawings, and truth. And across the world, thousands are writing back with the same words. "I thought I was lost, but maybe I'm just not finished yet." Sometimes, the miracle isn't in the cure, it's in the connection. The world can feel cold, sterile, and silent. But a single voice, honest, trembling, full of love, can bring someone home. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment sharing who helped you believe again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our community. Because somewhere, someone is still singing in the dark, and your voice might be the one they need to hear.